Just imagine, you're stuck in a suffocating routine where every bill that comes in seems bigger than your salary, where financial stress doesn't let you sleep at night, and where that constant feeling that money is always slipping through your fingers never goes away. Sound familiar? Then know that you are not alone in this battle. Now stop for a moment and think, what if there was an ancient philosophy, tested by emperors, warriors, and great thinkers, that could completely transform your relationship with money? A philosophy that not only teaches you how to accumulate wealth, but above all, how to master your mind and emotions when faced with financial challenges. This is exactly what Stoicism offers. While Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire in the world, while Seneca faced exile and death threats, while Epictetus overcame slavery to become one of the greatest philosophers in history, they all mastered powerful principles that can revolutionize your finances today. In this video, you'll discover 11 Stoic habits that will give you absolute control over your money. And pay close attention, each of these habits connects to the next. If you miss one of them, you could be missing out on the very key that will unlock the door to your financial freedom. So stick with me until the end, because this isn't just another video about money. It's a complete roadmap to transforming your financial mindset using principles that have stood the test of time for over 2,000 years. And before we start, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring this Stoic wisdom to more people who, like you, are seeking not just material wealth, but a life of purpose, virtue, and true prosperity. Let's go! 1. Ataraxia. Achieve financial tranquility. Imagine waking up every morning without that suffocating anguish about money, without the weight of financial worries crushing your thoughts, without the constant fear that an unexpected bill could destroy everything you've built. This is the promise of ataraxia, a state of inner tranquility that the ancient Stoic philosophers considered the true treasure of life. Ataraxia is not just an abstract concept from an ancient philosophy. It's a daily practice that can completely transform your relationship with money. When you look at people who are truly at ease with their finances, you notice something interesting. Many of them are not the richest. They are people who have learned to clearly separate what they can control from what is beyond their reach. They have understood that the financial market will fluctuate, that the economy will have ups and downs, and that unforeseen events will happen, and they have deeply accepted these truths. The philosopher Epictetus, who was born a slave and knew material hardship well, taught that our turmoil never comes from external circumstances, but from our judgments about them. When an unexpected expense arises, it's not the event itself that causes your suffering. It's the thought, "This is terrible, it shouldn't be happening," that generates anguish. The practice of ataraxia begins with the honest recognition, "This is happening. I can't change the fact, only my response to it." To cultivate financial ataraxia on a daily basis, start by identifying your circles of control. On a piece of paper, draw 2 concentric circles. In the inner circle, list everything related to money that is under your direct control: your monthly budget, your purchasing decisions, how much you save, how you invest, your sources of income. In the outer circle, list what is out of your control: interest rates, inflation, the stock market, the global economy, unforeseen emergencies. Now make a radical commitment. Focus 100% of your energy on the inner circle and completely accept the outer circle. The daily practice of ataraxia also involves a Stoic exercise called negative visualization. Take a few minutes every morning to imagine challenging financial scenarios: losing your job, facing a major medical expense, or seeing your investments temporarily devalue. Don't do this to fuel anxiety, but to prepare yourself mentally. Ask yourself, if this happens, how can I respond wisely? What internal resources can I mobilize? This exercise strengthens your financial resilience and lessens the emotional impact when real challenges arise. The Stoics also practiced voluntary simplicity, not out of austerity but out of freedom. They understood that the simpler our needs, the less vulnerable we become to external fluctuations. Try living on less than you earn for a month, not out of sacrifice, but as an exercise in freedom. Find out which expenses really bring lasting value to your life and which are just automatic habits or attempts to impress others. True financial ataraxia comes when you realize that you need much less than you thought to be genuinely happy. The end result of ataraxia isn't just less stress about money. It's a complete transformation in your relationship with wealth. You begin to see money not as an end in itself, but as a tool for a virtuous life. Your financial decisions come to reflect your deepest values, not momentary impulses. And perhaps most importantly, you discover that true wealth lies not in your bank account, but in your ability to maintain inner serenity regardless of external circumstances. As Seneca, another great Stoic, used to say, "It's quality, not quantity, that matters." True financial peace doesn't come from having more, it comes from needing less and valuing what really matters. 2. Amor fati. Accept your financial challenges. Imagine you've just lost your job. The bills keep coming, your savings are dwindling, and that investment that seemed promising has plummeted by 30% in a week. Most people would panic, blame the government, the market, or even themselves for not having foreseen what would happen. But there is a completely different approach, an ancient philosophy that can completely transform your relationship with these financial challenges. That philosophy is amor fati, the love of fate. Amor fati is not just an abstract concept created by ancient philosophers who lived in simpler times. It is a powerful and practical tool that great men and women have used to face some of the worst adversity imaginable. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius applied this philosophy while ruling an empire in crisis, facing wars and even a devastating pandemic. He wrote in his diaries that we must accept everything that comes our way as a necessary part of the fabric of our destiny. It's not just passively accepting, but actively loving each event as if it were exactly what we wanted to happen. When we apply amor fati to our finances, we begin to see every challenge not as an obstacle, but as a valuable teacher. That investment that went wrong, it's teaching you about risk and diversification better than any book ever could. Sudden unemployment, it's forcing you to develop new skills and perhaps discover talents you didn't even know you had. Accumulated debts, they're giving you a masterclass in the importance of financial planning and building emergency reserves. Instead of regretting these situations, you come to recognize the invaluable lessons they bring. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who popularized the term amor fati, saw this attitude as the formula for human greatness. He didn't just suggest accepting fate, but embracing it with enthusiasm. Think of the great entrepreneurs of our time. Many of them faced bankruptcies, rejections, and devastating failures before achieving success. Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he founded, but later described this event as the best thing that could have happened because it freed him to enter one of the most creative periods of his life. This is the essence of amor fati, transforming what appears to be a disaster into fuel for growth. In practice, cultivating amor fati in your financial life means fundamentally changing your relationship with money and financial problems. When an unexpected bill arrives, instead of feeling immediate anxiety, you can pause and say, "This is happening now, and it's exactly what I need to face right now." This is not a passive or resigned acceptance, but an active recognition that this situation, however challenging, contains seeds of opportunity. Perhaps it's the impetus you needed to finally organize your finances, create a realistic budget, or look for additional forms of income. Amor fati also frees us from constantly comparing ourselves to others, one of the biggest sources of financial unhappiness. When we accept our own financial path with all its quirks and challenges, we stop torturing ourselves by thinking that we should be on the same level as friends, family, or colleagues. Every financial journey is unique, and yours, with all its ups and downs, is perfectly aligned with your personal growth. The Stoics understood that true wealth lies not in the amount of money accumulated, but in the ability to find contentment regardless of external circumstances. Adopting amor fati doesn't mean abandoning financial prudence or failing to plan for the future. On the contrary, it means planning as well as possible, acting wisely, but also fully accepting the results, whatever they may be. It means recognizing that the financial market, like life, is inherently unpredictable. The most successful investors are not those who try to predict every market movement, but those who develop the emotional resilience to navigate through volatility without losing their balance. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, exemplifies this mindset when he advises to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful, a modern application of amor fati to the investment world. In the end, amor fati offers us a profound freedom, the freedom to no longer be victims of financial circumstances, but architects of our response to them. When we truly embrace each financial challenge as a necessary and valuable part of our journey, we discover an inexhaustible source of inner strength. Financial problems don't magically disappear, but our relationship with them changes fundamentally. Instead of being sources of paralyzing stress, they become catalysts for growth, creativity, and paradoxically, greater inner peace. As Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, said, "It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." By changing our view of financial challenges, by loving them rather than fearing them, we transform not just our finances, but our entire lives. 3. Prosoche. Spend with full attention. We live in a society where we are bombarded by thousands of advertising messages every day. Every ad, every shop window, every offer notification on your cell phone is meticulously designed to make you act on impulse and spend your money without thinking. It is against this backdrop of frenzied consumerism that the Stoic concept of prosoche becomes not only relevant, but revolutionary for your finances. Prosoche, in essence, means mindfulness or constant awareness. The ancient Stoics practiced this vigilant attention in all aspects of life, observing their thoughts and actions with unbiased clarity. When we apply this principle to our finances, we completely transform our relationship with money. It's not just about spending less, but spending better, with purpose and in line with our deepest values. To practice prosoche in your daily finances, start by creating a simple ritual before any purchase. Stop, take a deep breath, and ask yourself 3 fundamental questions. Do I really need this? Is this expenditure aligned with my long-term goals? And will this object or experience bring lasting value to my life? This brief moment of pause breaks the automatic cycle of consumption and inserts awareness where before there was only impulse. The Stoics understood that our minds are easily captured by passing desires. Epictetus taught that we must distinguish between what is necessary and what is merely desirable. When you practice financial prosoche, you begin to realize how many of your purchases are motivated not by real need, but by fleeting emotions, boredom, insecurity, the desire to impress others, or simply the habit of buying. This awareness alone transforms your spending patterns. A powerful practice for developing financial prosoche is the waiting period. For any non-essential purchase over a certain amount, commit to waiting 24 hours before finalizing the purchase. For more expensive items, extend this period to a week or a month. It's surprising how many consumer desires simply disappear when we don't act on them immediately. This simple practice can save you thousands of dollars over time. Mindfulness in finance also means being completely present when using your money. When you decide to make a conscious purchase, savor the experience, appreciate the value of what you are buying, recognize the privilege of being able to make that choice. The Stoics valued gratitude as an essential virtue, and expressing gratitude for what you can buy transforms the act of spending from an automatic behavior into a meaningful decision. The end result of practicing prosocial in your finances is a life where every dollar you spend is aligned with your deepest values. You stop being a passive consumer manipulated by external forces and become a conscious steward of your resources. Your purchases stop being random impulses and become intentional investments in the kind of life you really want to create. And perhaps most importantly, you discover that true satisfaction comes not from having more things, but from having the right things, those that genuinely enrich your life and reflect who you really are. 4. Eudaimonia. Seek true wealth. Imagine waking up every morning with a deep sense of satisfaction, not because your bank is full, but because your life is full of meaning. This is the essence of eudaimonia, a Greek concept that goes far beyond simple happiness, encompassing ideas such as flourishing, fulfillment, well-being, and the good life. For the Stoics, this state is not achieved through the accumulation of possessions, but through the practice of virtues. Stoic eudaimonia teaches us that true wealth lies not in how much you have, but in who you are. The Stoic philosophers firmly believed that possessing and practicing the 4 cardinal virtues, wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage, was the only genuine path to a fulfilling life. When we apply this principle to our finances, we begin to see money not as an end in itself, but as a tool for living virtuously. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, wisely said, "It is not the man who has little, but the one who desires more, who is poor." This profound observation reminds us that true poverty is not a lack of material resources, but an insatiable craving for more. When you seek financial eudaimonia, you begin to question every expense. Is this purchase in line with my deepest values? Does it contribute to my growth as a person? Does it bring me closer to the kind of life I consider virtuous? To cultivate eudaimonia in your financial life, start by examining your core values. Ask yourself, what really matters to me? What kind of person do I want to be? How can I use my resources to live up to these ideals? Maybe you value knowledge, then investing in education and books would be a virtuous use of your money. Perhaps you value family, so creating meaningful experiences with your loved ones would be a priority in your budget. The pursuit of eudaimonia frees us from constantly comparing ourselves to others, one of the biggest sources of financial unhappiness. Instead of worrying about your neighbor's new car or a co-worker's luxurious vacation, you focus on building a life that reflects your own values and virtues. As the Stoics taught, we should focus on living according to our nature as rational beings, not on accumulating passing pleasures through. Modern studies confirm what the Stoics already knew. Spending money on meaningful experiences brings more lasting happiness than acquiring material goods. Investing in meaningful relationships, contributing to important causes, and pursuing personal growth are ways of using money that promote true eudaimonia. As Elizabeth Dunn discovered in her research, buying experiences and spending on others are 2 of the main ways in which money can, in fact, buy happiness. Eudaimonia teaches us that we should use our money as a means to live virtuously, not as an end in itself. When your financial decisions are aligned with your deepest values, When you save with purpose, spend with intention, and give with generosity, you discover a form of wealth that no economic crisis can take away from you. As the Stoics understood, over 2,000 years ago, true wealth lies not in your net worth, but in the quality of your character and the virtue of your actions. 5. Memento mori. Enjoy every financial moment. Have you ever stopped to think that your time in this world is limited? That every second that passes will never come back? This is the essence of memento mori, a Stoic practice that constantly reminds us of our mortality. But make no mistake, far from being a morbid reflection, this concept is actually one of the most powerful catalysts for a full and meaningful financial life. The ancient Stoics kept symbols of death nearby, not to cultivate fear, but to awaken urgency and clarity. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote to himself, "Think of yourself as dead. You've already lived your life. Now take what remains and live it properly." This daily reflection on the finitude of life eliminated distractions and focused his attention on what really mattered. When we apply the memento mori to our finances, a profound transformation takes place. Suddenly, that impulse purchase seems insignificant when faced with the question, will it really matter when I look back on my life? Spending hours worrying about small market fluctuations seems like a waste when you realize that your time is the scarcest resource you have. The practice of memento mori in finance doesn't mean living as if there were no tomorrow, spending everything on momentary pleasures. On the contrary, it means using your awareness of mortality as a filter for making financial decisions in line with your deepest values. Ask yourself, if I knew I only had a few years to live, how would I use my money? What would I regret not having done or experienced? This reflection often reveals surprising truths. Many people discover that they wouldn't regret not having bought a more luxurious car or a bigger house, but rather not having traveled more, not having spent more time with loved ones, or not having pursued a passion or purpose. The memento mori helps us distinguish between spending that only fills temporary voids and investments that create a life rich in meaning. A powerful practice is to create a memento mori budget, an exercise where you imagine you have received a diagnosis that gives you only a few years to live. How would you reorganize your finances? What expenses would you eliminate immediately? What experiences would you prioritize? Which relationships would you invest more time and resources in? This exercise often reveals deep misalignments between how we spend our money and what we really value. The memento mori also frees us from the trap of postponing life to a future that may never arrive. How many people save rigidly for decades for a retirement they never get to fully enjoy? The Stoics would teach us to find a wise balance. Plan for the future, yes, but not at the expense of living meaningfully in the present. Every financial decision should be made with the awareness that this day, this hour, this moment is all we have guaranteed. In the end, the memento mori offers us a financial clarity that few other practices can provide. It reminds us that the true purpose of money is not accumulation, but conscious use to create a life well lived. When you regularly remind yourself of your mortality, your financial priorities naturally align with your deepest values. You stop being a slave to money and start using it as a tool to create a life that, when you look back in your final moments, you will contemplate with satisfaction and peace, knowing that you wasted neither your time nor your resources on what didn't really matter. 6. Enkratia. Control your financial impulses. We live in a society that constantly bombards us with messages of immediate consumption. Buy now, pay later. You deserve this. Take advantage of this limited time offer. These are the modern traps that keep us from true financial freedom. This is where the Stoic concept of enkratia becomes not only relevant, but essential to our financial health. Enkratia represents complete mastery over our impulses and desires. The ancient Stoics considered this self-control to be the basis of all other virtues. Epictetus, who was born a slave and knew material limitations well, taught that freedom is guaranteed not by satisfying desires, but by removing them. This profound truth reveals the paradox that many of us face. The more we give in to consumer impulses, the more imprisoned we become. To cultivate enkratia in your financial life, start by identifying your impulsive spending triggers. Could it be boredom, stress, social pressure, targeted ads on social media? By recognizing these patterns, you can create specific strategies to interrupt them. Maybe it's deleting shopping apps from your phone, turning off notifications of offers, or setting a 48-hour waiting rule before any non-essential purchase. The Stoics practiced daily self-control exercises to strengthen their mental toughness. You can adapt this practice by setting yourself small financial challenges. A day without spending anything, a month without non-essential purchases, or refusing to use a credit card for a set period. Each time you resist an impulse, you are strengthening your financial self-control muscle. A powerful practice for developing enkratia is to regularly visualize your long-term financial goals. When the temptation to spend impulsively arises, pause and vividly visualize what you're really after. Perhaps it's the freedom to work less, the security of a comfortable retirement, or the ability to help your children. This clarity of purpose strengthens your resolve in the face of momentary temptations. Financial self-control does not mean living a life of deprivation or extreme austerity. The Stoics were not ascetics who rejected all pleasures. They simply sought pleasures in line with reason and virtue. In the same way, enkratia in finance means consciously spending on things that really bring lasting value to your life, while eliminating spending that offers only fleeting satisfaction followed by regret. The true financial freedom that comes through enkratia is deeply countercultural in our consumer society. While the world shouts, "Buy more to be happy," the Stoic calmly replies, "I need less to be free." This self-control not only builds material wealth over time, but also cultivates an inner wealth that no economic crisis can take away from you. As the ancient Stoics knew, the richest man is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. 7. Affiliation. Invest in powerful relationships. Stoic philosophy recognizes that human beings are by nature social creatures. While the Stoics value self-reliance and internal development, they also deeply understand that our lives are intertwined with those of others. Affiliation. The cultivation of meaningful relationships represents a fundamental aspect of the virtuous life that the Stoics sought. When we apply this wisdom to our finances, we discover that true wealth transcends the accumulation of material resources and manifests itself through the connections we build. The ancient Stoics, such as Seneca, emphasized that true friendship is not based on superficial benefits, but on virtue and mutual respect. He argued that even the wise, who are self-sufficient, desire friends in order to practice friendship and ensure that noble deeds are not left without witness. This perspective teaches us that our financial decisions should reflect our deepest values and strengthen, not weaken, our human relationships. When we share resources, knowledge, and opportunities, we create a support network that benefits everyone, multiplying the value of our individual prosperity. In his reflections, Marcus Aurelius emphasized the interconnectedness of all human beings, seeing relationships as an integral part of the cosmic order. He reminds us that each individual is part of a greater whole and must fulfill their role within this universal framework. Applying this vision to finance, we can understand that our economic decisions never affect only ourselves, They reverberate through our community. When we invest in relationships, we are recognizing this fundamental interdependence and contributing to a more resilient social ecosystem. Modern research confirms the Stoic wisdom about relationships. A Harvard study that followed participants for almost 80 years found that personal relationships have a major influence on physical and mental health and are more important for lifelong happiness than money or fame. This suggests that investing time and energy in human connections can be more valuable than accumulating material wealth. True prosperity emerges when our finances serve to strengthen bonds, not for isolation or destructive competition. The Stoics teach us that generosity strengthens both the giver and the receiver. By sharing resources and supporting others in times of need, we cultivate virtues such as temperance, justice, and wisdom. This cycle of mutual support creates a form of wealth that cannot be measured in monetary terms, a wealth of character and community. When our financial decisions benefit not only ourselves, but also those around us, we are practicing a form of financial management in line with the Stoic principles of living in harmony with nature and reason. Stoic philosophy invites us to see our relationships as investments in our collective well-being. By cultivating connections based on shared values, mutual support and growth, we create a network that sustains us during difficult times and amplifies our joys. This approach frees us from the anxiety of accumulating wealth as protection against uncertainty, replacing it with a trust in human relationships as our true security. Thus, membership becomes not just a complement to our financial strategy, but its essential foundation, recognizing that genuine prosperity flourishes only when shared and nurtured in community. 8. Philanthropy. Give without expecting anything in return. Philanthropy, seen through the lens of Stoicism, represents a natural expression of our shared humanity. The Stoics understood that human beings are, by nature, social creatures destined to live in community and contribute to the common good. This view underpins the idea that selfless generosity is not just a virtue to be cultivated, but a manifestation of our deepest nature. When we practice genuine philanthropy, we are aligning our actions with the natural order of the universe, recognizing our fundamental interconnectedness with all human beings. The ancient Stoics believed that serving others and contributing to humanity are essential elements for a good life. They understood that we are created for each other and must work together for the service and harmony of all. This perspective invites us to see wealth not as something to be accumulated for one's own benefit, but as a resource to be shared for the common good. True prosperity, in the Stoic view, is not measured by how much we own, but by how we use what we have to benefit others. The practice of rational generosity was advocated by the Stoics, who proposed a measured approach to charity. They teach us that we should possess wealth with the knowledge that it is fickle and that we should share it with discernment. This perspective shows us that true generosity is not measured by the results of the act, but by the spirit from which it arises. When we give without expectation of return, we are practicing a form of detachment that frees us from anxiety about results and allows us to experience the pure joy of giving. Modern science confirms what the Stoics intuited centuries ago. Generosity benefits both the receiver and the giver. When we engage in acts of kindness, we experience increased well-being, reduced stress and anxiety, improved sleep quality, and increased self-esteem. It is interesting to note that it is not the magnitude of the generous act that determines these benefits, but rather the intention behind it. Even small gestures of generosity, when done sincerely, can bring deep personal satisfaction and strengthen our sense of connection with others. Stoic philanthropy involves living in harmony with the human community, benevolently wishing for all of humanity to flourish. This practice invites us to extend the same natural affection we feel for our own well-being to include the well-being of all human beings. In doing so, we widen the circle of our concern beyond ourselves and our loved ones, recognizing our shared responsibility for the well-being of all humanity. This expansion of consciousness is transformative, fundamentally changing how we see our place in the world. The practice of philanthropy not only benefits others, but also profoundly transforms us. By donating our time, talent, and resources, we develop a broader and more open perspective on the world. We connect with people and ideas different from our own, which enriches our understanding of the human condition. In addition, philanthropy provides a sense of purpose and meaning that transcends material concerns. The rewarding feeling of contributing to society helps us develop patience, kindness, and resilience, qualities that the Stoics valued as essential components of a virtuous life. 9. Moderation. Live within your means. Financial moderation is one of the fundamental pillars of Stoic philosophy applied to personal finances. The ancient Stoics understood that true wealth does not lie in the quantity of possessions, but in the quality of the relationship we have with what we have. Living within our means is not a limitation, but a liberation that allows us to find balance and tranquility in a world that constantly pushes us towards excess and unbridled consumption. Modern culture bombards us with messages that encourage excessive consumption, creating artificial desires and making us believe that we need more to be happy. However, Stoic wisdom teaches us that true satisfaction comes from moderation and being content with enough. When we learn to live below our means, we create space for genuine financial growth and a healthier relationship with money. This doesn't mean deprivation, but freedom. The freedom not to be controlled by consumerist impulses and social pressures. Practicing financial moderation requires self-knowledge and clarity about our real needs versus our desires. Before each purchase, we can pause and question its real necessity in our lives. This practice is not about denying joy, but about finding satisfaction in enough rather than excess. When we master this principle, we notice not only our bank balance growing, but also our inner contentment expanding, free from the anxieties that unbridled consumerism brings. Simplicity in finances brings benefits that go far beyond the monetary aspect. Studies show that people who adopt a financially moderate lifestyle experience less stress, greater mental clarity, and a stronger sense of control over their lives. Financial simplification reduces the mental burden associated with managing multiple debts, bills, and possessions, freeing up energy to focus on what really matters. This clarity allows us to align our spending with our deepest values, creating a life that reflects what we truly value. Living within our means also prepares us to face life's inevitable storms. When we spend less than we earn, we can build a robust emergency reserve, diversify our sources of income, and create an investment portfolio that protects us against market turbulence. This preparation brings peace of mind and practical strength. When challenges arise, we will face them from a position of strength, not financial despair. Stoic moderation in finances is not an end in itself, but a means to a more virtuous and meaningful life. By freeing ourselves from the incessant pursuit of more material possessions, we make room to cultivate what really matters: meaningful relationships, personal growth, contribution to others, and inner peace. True wealth, as the Stoics teach us, lies in the wisdom of knowing what is enough and the ability to find contentment in the present, regardless of external circumstances. By embracing financial moderation, we are not only building a solid financial foundation, but also cultivating a life of balance, purpose, and serenity that no amount of material possessions could provide. 10. Control versus acceptance. Know what you can change. The distinction between what we can control and what is beyond our power represents perhaps the most fundamental principle of Stoic philosophy. This wisdom, when applied to personal finance, completely transforms our relationship with money and the markets. The ancient Stoics teach us that peace of mind does not come from trying to control the uncontrollable, but from focusing our energy on what is genuinely within our grasp and calmly accepting the rest. In the world of finance, this distinction is particularly powerful. We can control our personal budget, our savings rates, our consumption habits, and our investment decisions. We cannot, however, control stock market fluctuations, interest rates, inflation, or global economic crises. When we deeply understand this truth, we stop wasting emotional energy on pointless worries about external factors and redirect that power to improving what is within our control. Financial anxiety often arises when we confuse these two spheres. We spend hours obsessing over economic news, trying to predict market movements, or regretting past decisions based on information we didn't have at the time. This constant preoccupation not only drains our mental energy, but also prevents us from taking effective action in the areas where we can really make a difference. Stoic wisdom invites us to take a different path, to accept the uncertainty inherent in the markets while dedicating ourselves diligently to personal financial planning. Practicing this distinction on a daily basis means developing a robust financial plan that recognizes the existence of unpredictable factors. Instead of trying to perfectly time the market or predict the next economic crisis, we can build a diversified strategy that is resilient to different scenarios. We can establish an adequate emergency fund, diversify investments, and live within our means. These actions are within our control and protect us much more effectively than futile attempts to predict the unpredictable. Stoic acceptance does not mean passivity or fatalism. On the contrary, it is an active and conscious stance that recognizes the limits of our power and then acts with maximum effectiveness within those limits. When an investment doesn't perform as expected due to market factors, the Stoic doesn't despair or blame himself excessively. Instead, they evaluate what they can learn from the situation, adjust their strategy as necessary, and move on without carrying the emotional weight of results that were beyond their control. This Stoic approach to finances frees us from the emotional roller coaster that many experience in their relationship with money. When we stop reacting emotionally to every fluctuation in the market and start focusing on what we can control, we discover a new form of financial peace of mind. Our success is no longer defined by unpredictable external factors, but by the quality of our decisions and the wisdom with which we manage what is genuinely in our power. This change in perspective not only improves our long-term financial results, but also gives us a peace of mind that no amount of money could buy. 11. Premeditatio malorum. Prepare for financial problems. The Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils, offers a powerful tool for financial resilience in a world full of uncertainty. This ancient technique, far from being an exercise in pessimism, represents a pragmatic and realistic way of facing the inevitable difficulties of financial life. By visualizing possible adversities in advance, we remove the element of surprise and prepare ourselves emotionally and practically to face them with equanimity and wisdom. In the financial context, premeditatio malorum invites us to contemplate challenging scenarios such as the sudden loss of a job, a costly medical emergency, investment failures, or even wider economic crises. This mental exercise is not intended to generate anxiety, but rather to strengthen our ability to respond. When we imagine in detail how we would react to a significant financial loss, we are essentially vaccinating our minds against the shock and despair that usually accompany such events when they occur without warning. Regular practice of this technique gradually transforms our relationship with financial uncertainty. Instead of fearing the unknown, we develop a familiarity with possible challenges, diminishing their power to emotionally destabilize us. By regularly contemplating the possibility of losing our job, for example, we can objectively assess our transferable skills, consider alternative sources of income, and even find opportunities that we wouldn't have noticed in a state of panic. Premeditation allows us to respond with clarity instead of reacting with fear. This Stoic approach also motivates us to create concrete contingency plans. When we visualize potential financial problems, we naturally start building protection systems. A robust emergency fund that covers at least 6 months of essential expenses, a safety net with multiple sources of income, a diversified investment strategy, and a lifestyle that is below our means. These practical measures are the natural result of taking the possibility of adversity seriously, transforming abstract concerns into concrete actions that strengthen our financial position. The premeditatio malorum also helps us to develop a more balanced view of prosperity. When we regularly contemplate the transitory nature of wealth, as the Stoics teach us, we develop a healthier relationship with money and material possessions. We come to value financial security and peace of mind over unbridled accumulation or ostentatious consumption. This change in perspective protects us not only from external crises, but also from our own impulses that could jeopardize our long-term financial stability. The wisdom of this Stoic practice lies in its ability to transform paralyzing anxiety into active preparation. When we directly face the possibility of financial difficulties, we remove the power that fear of the unknown exerts over us. Instead of avoiding thinking about negative scenarios, we deliberately confront them, drawing from them valuable lessons and inspiration for preventive action. This process not only strengthens our financial resilience, but also cultivates an inner tranquility that remains unshakable even in turbulent times. True financial security, as the Stoics understood, comes not only from abundant material resources, but from the ability to maintain mental clarity and inner strength in the face of any circumstance. Along this journey through Stoic principles, applied to finance, we have discovered a different path to true prosperity. We've seen how affiliation teaches us that real wealth grows when shared through meaningful relationships. We learned from philanthropy that giving without expecting a return not only benefits others, but also brings us deep and lasting satisfaction. Moderation showed us that living within our means is not a limitation, but a liberation that allows us to find balance in a world that constantly pushes us to excess. We understand the importance of distinguishing between what we can control and what we must accept, focusing our energy on intelligently planning our personal finances while leaving behind useless worries about unpredictable events. And finally, through the premeditatio malorum, we discover that anticipating possible financial problems is not pessimism, but rather a way of strengthening and preparing ourselves for any adversity that life may present. These Stoic teachings are not just ancient theories, but practical tools for navigating today's complex financial world. They offer us not just strategies for accumulating material wealth, but a path to a deeper and more meaningful prosperity, one that balances financial success with inner peace, human connections, and contribution to the common good. Now it's your turn to turn these principles into action. Start today by applying one of these lessons to your financial life. Perhaps it's creating a budget that reflects moderation, strengthening your mutually supportive relationships, or establishing a plan for possible future difficulties. Remember, true wealth is not just in how much you have, but in how you live. Take the first step now towards a financial life guided by Stoic wisdom, a life of balance, purpose, and serenity that no amount of money could buy on its own.